the guy who want to listen, the guy who want to follow in the gym. So I think he's a great player for us, and I think he's going to bring us.
Nikola Jokic's request for Russell Westbrook might have seemed strange at first glance.
I've been told that Nikola Jokic actually has been pushing behind the scenes to get Westbrook to
But it now appears to be a calculated risk paying off for both Denver and Westbrook himself. Their synergy is breathing fresh life into a contender sometimes accused of complacency, reminding fans that a so-called outdated guard can transform under the right conditions. But will this surprising partnership crumble under playoff pressure or rewrite NBA history? Russell Westbrook enjoyed a meteoric rise in the NBA. In 2017, he averaged a triple-double for an entire season, earning MVP honors and sealing his reputation as one of the league's most explosive guards. He piled up highlights with ferocious drives, monster rebounds for his size, and electrifying passes that fueled nightly triple-double chatter. For a moment, it seemed impossible to imagine Westbrook being labeled washed. Over the next few years, though, Westbrook hopped from team to team, Oklahoma City to Houston, Houston to Washington, Washington to the Lakers, then briefly to the Clippers. Each stop brought mixed success. Raw statistics remained impressive, but critics argued that his style clashed with modern spacing requirements and that he demanded the ball to the detriment of ball movement. His three-point shooting hovered near or below 30%, fueling talk that defenses could sag off him, hindering his team's offensive flow. The Lakers' stint especially dampened his image. Paired with LeBron James, Westbrook was expected to elevate Los Angeles into a title contender. Instead, the experiment never meshed as intended. He often looked hesitant off the ball, forced questionable jumpers, and faced unrelenting scrutiny from local media. The term Westbrick trended for a time whenever he missed from deep. By the end of that run, fans and pundits alike concluded that he was no longer the unstoppable force who once terrorized defenses. A short period with the Clippers temporarily revived some faith, but the playoffs ended quickly, overshadowing any bright spots. By the summer, many assumed Westbrook would accept a minimal role or possibly drift out of the league entirely. That was the narrative swirling when Nikola Jokic, a back-to-back MVP known for minimal off-court involvement, placed a subtle push for Denver to sign Westbrook. Plenty of people raised eyebrows at the news, wondering if Jokic saw some underappreciated dimension in a guard widely regarded as on the decline. Let's take a moment to announce our new Hoop Hype store for fresh merch. With fresh new merch, you can explore hoodies, tees, and mugs that let you showcase your love for the game. Make sure to support the channel by purchasing your favorite gear and light up the court with style. Jokic has rarely meddled in roster moves. Denver's front office seldom consults him on trades or signings, confident in his adaptability to almost any lineup. Despite that, internal whispers suggest Jokic directly encouraged the team to target Russell Westbrook. It was a radical idea. Conventional wisdom said the Nuggets needed more shooting, or at least a reliable wing defender, not a guard nearing 37 with shaky range. Yet Jokic allegedly had a clear rationale. Denver had lost key energy players, the sort who could invigorate a lineup with pace and competitiveness. Bruce Brown and others had departed, and while the team retained a strong core, there was a gap in transitional spark and veteran leadership. Westbrook, for all his flaws, provided an intensity few others could match. Perhaps Jokic sought a more relentless style to counter the occasional complacency that seeps into a contender after achieving success. Others speculate that Jokic admired Westbrook's hustle from their battles over the years. They clashed physically, trading words during heated possessions, but Jokic never doubted Westbrook's drive and will to compete. A player known for unstoppable effort might perfectly complement Jokic's calm approach. Additionally, Jokic's selfless brand of basketball, operating from the high post, zipping passes to cutters, seemed well suited to Westbrook's strengths, letting him slash inside rather than settling for low-percentage jumpers. Westbrook's reputation for ball dominance alarmed many. They feared he would clash with Jamal Murray or disrupt Denver's fluid offense. Jokic disagreed. As one of the league's best passers, Jokic presumably envisioned not a rival ball handler, but an ally capable of turning routine rebounds or loose balls into quick points. Denver's half-court sets revolve around an unselfish style, and Jokic believed Westbrook's energy, harnessed the right way, could elevate the entire roster. It was a bold assertion, yet the early returns suggest Jokic might have been onto something. Upon Westbrook's arrival, observers assumed the Nuggets would either stash him as a bench spark or attempt to fit him awkwardly beside Jokic and Murray. Surprising many, Westbrook started multiple games alongside Jokic, showcasing a different version of his game. Instead of incessantly dominating the ball, he often moved off it, cutting to the rim at moments that capitalized on Jokic's pinpoint passing. In half-court sets, Jokic typically positions himself at the elbow or perimeter, reading the defense. Westbrook adapts by timing baseline cuts or diving from the wing once defenders turn their attention to Jokic's dribble handoff. This synergy contrasts with the static spacing nightmares he faced in previous stints. Freed from the burden of orchestrating every possession, Westbrook invests more energy in high-speed slashes and opportunistic transitions. That approach has led to a series of backdoor layups and dunks reminiscent of his prime Oklahoma City days. Another layer to Westbrook's integration is ball distribution. He can still initiate the offense for bench lineups without Jokic, giving Denver a reliable second creator when Jamal Murray needs rest or battles injury. In that role, Westbrook wields the aggression that once fueled triple-double campaigns, but the difference now lies in measured shot selection. He defers more when jumpers aren't open, and he no longer attempts the same volume of contested mid-range attempts that he once forced in Los Angeles. The result is a Westbrook still capable of flirting with near triple-double stat lines, but in a manner more conducive to team success. Denver's staff hammered home the message that every player benefits from Jokic's pass-first brilliance, so forcing bad shots only squanders the advantage. Westbrook has responded by hitting respectable percentages from mid-range, focusing on at-rim finishes or open corner looks that come from secondary attacks. Defensively, Westbrook's hustle stands out. He's picking up ball handlers earlier than usual, diving for 50-50 balls, and switching with more discipline. While not a lockdown defender, his willingness to expend energy lifts the team's intensity. The synergy with Jokic, ironically, hinges on the star big man's desire to share the ball and Westbrook's recognition that he doesn't have to handle every possession. In this new context, Westbrook can thrive as an athletic energizer, a role that suits both him and the Nuggets. The initial outcomes of this partnership have been promising. The Nuggets' offense, long orchestrated through Jokic's point center approach, now features a heightened transition game. With Westbrook pushing the pace, Denver leads the league in fast break points or sits near the top in pace metrics, turning defensive rebounds into near-instant scoring threats. That is a dimension the team lacked, especially after losing Bruce Brown's hustle and athletic aggression. Coach Michael Malone has often praised Westbrook's leadership, calling him vocal and demanding, traits that can galvanize younger or more passive teammates. Some might have expected friction with Jamal Murray. Instead, Murray benefits from splitting ball handling duties. He can stay fresh for crucial scoring bursts, no longer forced to initiate every set or grind through defensive traps alone. Jokic, for his part, has publicly lauded Westbrook. The two had a competitive past, trading barbs and hard fouls in matchups, but Jokic often mentioned that off-court, Westbrook was an exemplary teammate. That locker room positivity has manifested in sideline clips showing them joking around or discussing strategy mid-game. Fans, initially skeptical about Westbrook's shot-happy reputation, have warmed up as they see him adapt. He's hitting a better percentage from three than some expected, though still no marksman. But his trademark scowls, chest-thumping, and unstoppable drives have injected a contagious energy. The home crowd roars when Westbrook outruns defenders for a layup or intercepts a passing lane for an easy slam. The synergy with Jokic has overshadowed pre-existing notions that Westbrook disrupts ball movement. Within a month, the narrative shifted from why would Jokic want Westbrook to this might work. The biggest test remains sustainability, particularly as the team weathers injuries. Nonetheless, from the vantage of these early games, the dynamic appears beneficial for all parties. Jokic gets a high-octane guard who thrives on opening up the floor. Westbrook, in turn, receives an environment that highlights his strengths instead of magnifying his weaknesses. The assumption for years was that Westbrook's game, defined by reckless drives and questionable shot selection, would never mesh with a disciplined half-court scheme. Critics hammered on his inefficiency, a career sub-31% three-point shooter, an inclination to chase stats, and a tendency to commit untimely turnovers. They also said he was unable to adapt to playing alongside star teammates, citing difficulties with James Harden, Bradley Beal, and especially LeBron James. Denver's system addresses many of these concerns. The offense doesn't rely on Westbrook to create high-difficulty isolation plays. Instead, he flourishes in structured sets designed by Jokic's passing vision. This setup grants him more open driving lanes and better spacing than he had in other contexts. He's capitalizing on backdoor cuts, receiving passes in stride rather than standing idle on the perimeter. That realignment alone has reduced the number of forced jumpers. Another persistent knock on Westbrook was that he soared on raw athleticism, neglecting the finer points of shot selection. Though not reformed entirely, he's shown an improved willingness to keep the ball moving. If the lane is clogged, he resets to Jokic or a perimeter shooter instead of forcing a contested mid-range. Freed from the burden of carrying an entire offense, Westbrook can concentrate on maximizing each touch more efficiently. His defensive involvement counters a long-standing narrative that he hunts rebounds for triple-doubles at the expense of positioning. In Denver, he invests energy in on-ball pressure, chasing smaller guards who once thrived against the Nuggets. His effort, whether a well-timed steal or a chase-down block, reflects a renewed focus on intangible contributions. The cynics who insisted he was a stat chaser see glimpses of a more collaborative approach. This synergy doesn't erase Westbrook's limitations, of course. He still endures nights where the jump shot abandons him, or he racks up turnovers by misreading defenses. But with each consistent performance, he chips away at the notion that he cannot fit a winning formula. Jokic's presence elevates him, but Westbrook also reciprocates by injecting passion and hustle into a team that risks stagnation after achieving success. Amid the glowing reports of Westbrook's rejuvenation, certain challenges loom. The first and most pressing involves Jamal Murray. Once Murray returns to peak health, the Nuggets will recalibrate. If Westbrook thrived as a primary or secondary ball handler in Murray's absence, how does he handle a smaller share of possessions once the star guard is back? There's potential friction if Westbrook reverts to forcing shots out of frustration at limited opportunities. The team must orchestrate a balance that preserves Westbrook's momentum, yet acknowledges Murray's role as a top-tier scoring guard. Another question is how well Westbrook can adapt to postseason basketball. In recent years, teams dissected his weaknesses in a 7-game series environment, sagging off him to clog driving lanes. Even if Denver's system mitigates some of that, playoff defenses still excel at exposing suspect shooters. Should he endure a cold streak from mid-range or 3, opponents might hamper the Nuggets' spacing by ignoring him outside the paint. Westbrook's response, whether doubling down on cut-based offense or forcing ill-advised jumpers, could tip a series. Then there's the intangible matter of consistency. Westbrook stands out for an emotional style, fueling him to produce feats of hustle. But if adversity arises, can he remain locked into the team scheme, or might old habits resurface? A handful of out-of-control possessions can quickly shift momentum in the playoffs. Coaches will also juggle lineups to keep an optimal blend of shooters around Jokic, occasionally sidelining Westbrook in critical stretches if his shot falters. It might seem odd that Nikola Jokic, a laid-back superstar known for calm brilliance, clamored for a historically ball-dominant guard with iffy shooting. Yet in Denver's ecosystem, Westbrook's presence satisfies multiple needs that had become increasingly evident. The squad had recently lost a portion of its energetic depth, the kind that Bruce Brown once provided. Jokic, well aware that champion-level rosters demand diverse skill sets, recognized a hole in the team's pace and emotional intensity. Russell Westbrook, for all his perceived flaws, offers precisely that, an emotional engine. Jokic's brand is cerebral. He manipulates defenses with subtle fakes and cross-court passes, rarely showing intense outward emotion. By contrast, Westbrook storms up and down the court, yelling encouragement to teammates, diving into collisions for loose balls, and barking on defense. The combination of quiet intelligence, Jokic, and explosive fervor, Westbrook, can galvanize a locker room. If the team hits a lull, Westbrook's voice often sparks an energy shift. Moreover, Jokic, a top-tier facilitator, benefits from a second ball handler who can create transition opportunities. Westbrook's rebounding prowess at guard spotlights that once he snatches the board, he's off to the races, fueling early offense. Jokic, who thrives trailing behind or setting up for a quick pass, sees new angles for half-court creation. Neither man has to hog the spotlight or handle the ball for an entire shot clock. Offensively, the synergy rests on Westbrook's willingness to adapt. Jokic presumably believed that if Westbrook adhered to the unselfish style and cut instead of standing around, they could flourish. The gamble paid off in these opening weeks. Westbrook's stats remain robust without overshadowing Jokic's MVP shape. Meanwhile, the intangible leadership factor might have been what sealed the deal for Jokic. Denver's roster is composed of multiple complementary pieces, but few who can match Westbrook's vocal nature in guiding or challenging teammates. That intangible is sometimes the difference between a solid contender and a champion. From Jokic's vantage point, the risk of outdated or inefficient play seemed worth the potential boost in emotional momentum, pace, and overall competitiveness. There is still plenty to prove for this experiment to be deemed a success. success. Even if Westbrook thrives through the regular season, the spotlight intensifies in the playoffs. Opposing coaches are adept at pinpointing weaknesses. They may gamble on leaving him open from three, replicating the scheme that once plagued him on other teams. The question becomes whether Westbrook can maintain discipline, continuing to slash, facilitating rather than launching ill-advised jumpers. If he does, the Nuggets have a potential advantage over squads expecting predictable half-court sets from Denver. It also matters how the front office envisions Westbrook's future. The initial contract might be short-term, but if he remains productive, do they extend him at season's end? Salary constraints could be a factor. The Nuggets typically prefer continuity, but must balance multiple big contracts, including Jokic, Murray, and Michael Porter Jr. If Westbrook demands more than the front office can pay, might he try his luck elsewhere again? Conversely, a modest but stable arrangement in Denver could attract him more than chasing an uncertain bigger contract on a struggling franchise. Fans highlight a potential intangible. If Westbrook cements a calmer style guided by Jokic's unselfishness, he could rewrite how the public perceives his legacy. Instead of being the triple-double collector who flamed out on multiple teams, he might become the veteran who adapted, overcame negativity, and helped a contender remain potent. That new storyline would overshadow the recent washed label. Nikola Jokic's request for Russell Westbrook might have seemed strange at first glance, but it now appears to be a calculated risk paying off for both Denver and Westbrook himself. Their synergy is breathing fresh life into a contender sometimes accused of complacency, reminding fans that a so-called outdated guard can transform under the right conditions. The season's second half and the looming playoffs will ultimately decide how this partnership is remembered. Don't forget to support the channel by visiting our Hoop Hype store. And if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to watch our next one, Show on Screen. Show on Screen.